cruiser is here! We are under attack! Get me down from here! Help me! Help me! Help me!
Good evening and welcome to Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, your place for an amusing conversation about horror movies, hosted by a talking cat. We are back from our mid-season hiatus, and tonight we're going to kick off the second half of the season with a discussion about a controversial creature feature from 2007. Well, I don't know if controversial is exactly the right word, but let's just say the ending of this film evoked some strong opinions from the people who watched it. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first we're going to take just a moment to check in with our sponsors. So, calling in from the Steve the Cat Orbital Broadcast platform, we've got our good friend Crimson Meerkat. Hey Meerkat, what's new?
What's new? What's new? Are you joking? The Orbital Broadcast platform is under attack by a hostile alien force, and you've had me on hold since the mid-season finale.
Yeah, sorry about that. Things got kind of busy around here. So, what exactly do you mean about being under attack?
I mean that we are under attack! There is a hostile alien battlecruiser less than a kilometer away from the platform, and it is closing fast. Get me down from here!
Folks, isn't it amazing how quickly we moved from trying to prove the existence of alien life to having an alien spaceship parked right outside? It's like the writer is completely winging it.
Damn it, Steve, stop breaking the fourth wall. You know the rule. Never, ever break the fourth wall.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Okay. So resetting. So what exactly are these hostile aliens doing? Have they been shooting at you, or have they tried to board the station?
Not yet, but they're definitely trying to break into the station's databanks. Once they figure out that we're unarmed... Oh, and thank you for that, by the way. I'm expecting them to send a boarding party over here to kill me. Right now, I've locked down the control center and sealed all the blast doors. I'm hoping that'll hold them off.
Well, if you try to use one of the escape pods, you'll be a sitting duck, so it's probably best that you just sit still. Just sit tight for now, you and Malcolm, and we'll hope they leave you alone.
Yeah, me and Malcolm. We're both going to sit tight in the control room. The both of us. Together. Both of us, because, you know, we're both up here together.
Meerkat, did you lock Malcolm out of the control room?
I forgot he was up here. He was in the cargo hold. He's always in the cargo hold working on his stupid freestyle raps, and I completely forgot about him.
Well, find him then!
All right, I'm checking the onboard computer. What? He's in the hangar. Malcolm, what do you think you're doing? No. Oh, no, you don't, mister. Don't you take that escape pod. Malcolm, stop! Stop! You turn that ship around right now, mister.
Nice job, Meerkat. He just cleared the station perimeter.
Malcolm, don't you do it. Don't you turn around and fire those main engines. You get back here right now, mister. That's an order. I mean, well, if we actually worked in the kind of environment where I was actually authorized to give you orders, this would be an order. Just pretend, Malcolm. Pretend. Pretend you respect me. Pretend you respect me and come back for me, you traitor.
Nice job again, Meerkat. He just fired the main engines.
Malcolm, you traitor! You dirty, traitorous fiend! How dare you desert me! I am your commanding officer! Get back here and rescue me! You conniving, double-crossing lizard! I would never abandon you!
Aren't you the one who locked him out of the control center in the first place?
Be quiet, you dope! Malcolm, come on, buddy! You know I would never abandon you! You're my buddy! You're creative and, you're insightful! And your raps are really, educational!
And he's caught in a tractor beam. I think they're trying to bring him aboard.
Malcolm, buddy, you're caught in a tractor beam. You have to turn around. Turn around and do a maximum burn right now, or else you won't be able to break away. You know how to do that, right? That's totally the kind of thing they teach you at DJ school, right? Come on, buddy. It's just like spinning a turntable, but well, pretend the stylus is pressurized hydrazine.
Yep, they're bringing him aboard.
Malcolm, don't let them break you, Malcolm. Don't let them break you. Name, rank, and serial number, Malcolm. Nothing else. Remember your oath. Give them nothing. Nothing. Do you hear me? Give them nothing. Malcolm!
Well, that can't be good.
Well, I should sign off now. I suppose I need to prepare a letter for the next of kin. I hate this part of the job. I mean, what am I supposed to say? Dear Mrs. Fluffosaurus, Your son Malcolm has been eaten by aliens. He died bravely, and I'll really miss his horrific musical compositions. Ugh, I need a drink. And a Xanax. Alright, I'm out of here. Steve, they'll be coming to kill me next, so if this is the last time we speak, I just want you to know that you're pretentious and annoying, and I really, really don't like you. Meerkat out.
Well, that was awkward. So, in summary, Orbital Broadcast Platform Chief Scientist, Malcolm Fluffosaurus, was captured by aliens and is presumed eaten. Commanding Officer Crimson Meerkat is currently dangling like a worm on a hook on board an unarmed space station with no escape pod. And I've been chastised once again for breaking the fourth wall. But enough of all that. Now that we've satisfied our contractual obligations to the sponsors and given the latecomers a chance to join the live watch party, we can get on to the important business of talking about horror movies. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. Now pour yourself a drink and get comfortable because here we go.
Oh my God.
Something in the mist! Something in the mist
Dan.
took John Lee!
Dan, catch your breath.
Something in the mist took John Lee. And I could hear him screaming. Shut the doors! Shut the doors, my God!
Daddy, I'm scared. Can we go home?
Don't go out there. There's something in the mist. It took John Lee. Screw that. I'm getting to my car. Mister, no!
All right, let's get into our featured film review for this episode. Now, we're only going to do one featured film review today. We're trying out something new with the show of maybe scaling down the workload a little bit because the old workload of doing 2 featured film reviews every week was killing our writer/director, Carl the Camera Monkey, so we're trying to give him a break until we can find his replacement. I mean, we're trying to help him out. Anyway, tonight we are going to talk about this film called The Mist. This is a horror creature feature released in the year 2007, directed by Frank Darabont, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the cast includes Thomas Jane, Marcia Gay Harden, Laurie Holden, Andre Braugher, and Toby Jones, plus an assortment of others. Now, if you might recognize the name, Frank Darabont also directed The Green Mile and The Shawshank Redemption, which were also based upon the Stephen King stories. The Mist is also based upon a story by Stephen King, so this is at least his third film based upon a Stephen King story. This one is very different from the other two, though. Obviously, Shawshank Redemption, not anything really horror related. Green Mile, a little more mystical, but certainly not monsters eating people. The Mist is a straight up sci-fi style creature feature. Let's get into setting your expectations for this film. If you're gonna sit down and watch The Mist, what you should expect is a very well-made creature feature that also explores human nature and human behavior in a crisis. And be aware that this film has a famously or infamously shocking ending. Depending upon your point of view, it's famously or infamously. If you like the 1982 remake of The Thing or the 1988 remake of The Blob, you should like The Mist. Those are not only two of my favorite horror movies from the 80s, they are two of my top 10 of all time. I love them both. I am surprised I did not watch The Mist before now. I just watched it the first time for this show, in part because I'd heard so many people complaining about the ending. I finally sat down and watched it and said, boy, I wish I had watched this sooner. It's a very good film. Let's get into calibrating your expectations a little bit. This is the scale we like to use. On the very left side of the scale, we talk about campy films, such as Jason X. On the far right side of the film, we talk about very dark, serious films, such as The Silence of the Lambs. The Mist is a very serious film. It is to the right side of the spectrum. It's not quite all the way over because there's a little more suspension of disbelief required. Silence of the Lambs, for example, is about a serial killer, and we know that those are real. The Mist, although it's done realistically, it's about a portal to another dimension allowing monsters into ours, so you gotta move it a little bit over. Now, as always, remember, this scale is not an assessment of the quality of the film. This scale is just an indication of what your mindset needs to be going into the film, so you don't want to go into a campy film expecting something serious or vice versa. In this case, The Mist is a very serious film, so if you're in the mood for a light comedy, it's not a good choice, but it is a good movie, so if you're in the mood for something serious, give it a shout. Alright, before we go any farther, let's get into our vocabulary lesson. This, of course, is the part of the episode where we discuss new and innovative words and phrases in an effort to stay ahead of social media bots and algorithms that would otherwise try to ban us. We have two new terms for tonight. Our first term is Houdini splitting. Houdini splitting is a noun that refers to the act in a horror movie of dividing a character in half laterally, much in the same way a magician saws the lady in the box in half. And I'm kind of surprised we have not had to do a term like this on the show before now. We have done something called Great Dividing, where a character is split in half vertically, so basically split down the center, but we've not done the Lady in the Box style splitting in half before now. Our second term is incubatorization. Incubatorization is a noun that refers to the act in a horror movie of a monster or critter laying its eggs inside a character. Just like spiders laying eggs inside your ear. Now, colloquial forms of this include egg crating and sunny siding. So if somebody here uses the term sunny siding, they are referring to a critter laying eggs inside another character in a horror movie. Anyway, please keep these terms in mind. They will become important later in the episode. Let's get into a summary of this film. So, in the town of Bridgeton, Maine, a severe storm damages the home of the Drayton family. David Drayton and his 8-year-old son Billy head into town to pick up supplies to repair the house. And while they are at the grocery store, a mysterious mist rolls in and blankets the town. Now, we saw a little of that in the preview before the review. I'm going to give us another clip where you see the mist arriving right here, so let's take a look.
Norton's tree.
Yeah? You mean the dead one I've been asking him to take down for 3 years before it finally blew over? That tree?
Really got smushed.
You ain't kidding.
Look at that.
What is it, Daddy?
Mist?
On the lake?
We've had mist on the lake before.
Coming off the mountain like that?
2 fronts meeting, left over from the storm, something like that.
Sure.
Honey, I'm not the weatherman. Why don't you take Billy, get him dressed? I'll take him to town with me.
Alright, so, film summary continuing. Anyone who ventures into the mist screams horribly and then vanishes, thus trapping the customers in the grocery store. And you saw some of that in the preview before the review started. What exactly is in the mist? And this, of course, brings us to our villain profile for this film. Our villain profile is mist monsters, and there are various kinds of mist monsters. This is not a creature feature singular. This is a creature feature plural. In fact, many, many plural. Many different types of critters. There's an example of one, kind of an evil spider. Here's an example of another, some giant elephant-like monstrosity with 6 legs. They don't necessarily give you names of these things, but there is a whole host of evil critters in this film. Now, these belong to the class of monsters from another dimension. Their special powers are various, since there are many different kinds of critters in this film, but their special powers include, but are not limited to, immense size and strength, wall crawling, web spinning abilities, and or flight. Not shown here, there are some flying critters in this movie. Their signature weapon, again, they have various, depending upon which critter you're talking about, and those various weapons include, but are not limited to, claws, teeth, tentacles with teeth, yes, really, tentacles with teeth, venomous stingers, and acidic spider webs, so some pretty nasty mist monsters to deal with in this film.
And now a word from our benevolent overlords at PBDC TV, your nightly heartbeat of horror.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, and when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.
So let's get into the things I liked about this film. Right off the bat, the film is extremely well executed. The direction and the cinematography are excellent, and the film just looks really good on screen. Now, that's not surprising. The same guy who did The Shawshank Redemption did this film, so he quite obviously knows his business. The acting is very good. You have a pretty good cast in this film, and the acting is very good. The film establishes a very spooky atmosphere. And what I liked about this one, and I've talked about this in some other films before, I like the fact that the signs of disaster unfold a few at a time instead of just like, bang, there's an alert on the television and suddenly everyone in town has gotten exposition simultaneously and everybody knows what's going on. Now, we saw a bit of that in the preview. I started before the review, but since we are now after the commercial break, I'm going to show another clip. It's going to overlap a little bit with that clip, but this will get people caught up if they came in after the commercial break. So let's take a look.
Yes, ma'am. There's your $1.29. And I need some change on register 5.
Good morning, Miss Repler.
Hello, Miss Repler.
Well, hello to you, Billy Drayton. How'd you hold up in the storm?
We had a tree come through the picture window last night, right in my studio.
And the boathouse got all smushed. Mr. Norton's tree fell on it.
Oh, ouch. Sorry to hear that.
How'd you guys make out?
Oh, we're fine. It's the listings I'm worried about. At the very least, I'll bet every one of our for sale signs fell over. We had damage at the school, wouldn't you know? That's what we get for not fixing that roof when we should have. But with funds being cut every year, you'd think educating children would be more of a priority in this country, but you'd be wrong. Government's got better things to spend our money on, like corporate handouts and building bonds.
Daddy, is there a fire? Is Mommy all right?
I'm sure she's fine. Don't worry, okay?
Mind what you're doing, Sally.
Oh, come on. We got 10 days leave. Check our papers. Look, I told you all leaves are canceled. I don't know why. I gotta go check the pharmacy out. 3 men meet me back at the Jeep in 5 minutes. It's an order.
Shit, man. Another half an hour, we'd have been gone.
Oh my God.
Something in the mist! Something in the mist took John Lee!
Dan, catch your breath.
Something in the mist took John Lee. And I could hear him screaming, "Shut the doors! Shut the doors, my God!"
So you can see how things unfolded a little bit at a time, okay? First the MP, then police car, fire truck, and then finally the civil defense sirens going off. At times, the film takes on an almost found footage atmosphere with no music and events unfolding in real time. Now, that is not to say that it looks like a found footage film. It's not being shot with handheld cameras, and it doesn't look cheap. It looks like a full-blown motion picture, but it's just the atmosphere of it feels more found footage-esque because there's no background music. You don't have something intruding upon your bubble of disbelief to tell you that, no, this is a film, this is not really happening. It's really, really easy to immerse yourself in this film. The different ways that various people deal with the fear is interesting. And the your people, my people atmosphere develops almost immediately. And we've got a clip that I want to show you real here that just kind of summarizes that. So let's take a look.
Want another reason to get the hell out of here? I'll give you the best one. Her. Mrs. Carmody. She's our very own Jim Jones. I'd like to leave before people start drinking the Kool-Aid.
He's right. Like your people get, the better she's gonna look.
No, I don't buy that. It's obvious she's nuts. Look, a few people maybe, but...
No, I count 4. She's preaching to them right now. By noon, she'll have 4 more. By tomorrow night, when those things come back, she'll have a congregation, and then we can start worrying about who she's gonna sacrifice to make it all better. Hmm? You, Amanda? My little boy.
He's right.
You don't have much faith in humanity, do you?
None whatsoever.
I can't accept that. People are basically good, decent. My God, David, we're a civilized society.
Sure, as long as the machines are working and you can dial 911, but you take those things away, you throw people in the dark, you scare the shit out of them. No more rules. You'll see how primitive they get.
You scare people badly enough, you can get them to do anything. They'll turn to whoever promises a solution. Or whatever.
Ollie, please, back me up here.
I wish I could. As a species, we're fundamentally insane. Put more than 2 of us in a room, we pick sides and start dreaming up reasons to kill one another.
So if you watch the film, what you will see is different factions developing within the grocery store almost immediately. Just human nature in a crisis. The film gives you lots of things to talk about with your friends after viewing, so if you're one of those kind of people that likes to watch a movie and then chat about the different meanings and possibilities with your friends afterwards, this one's a pretty good one. And finally, the ending is very, very emotionally powerful. I actually liked the ending of this film just because it is different and it was very emotionally powerful. Let's talk about some things that could have been better with this film. These are not necessarily criticisms of mine, but these are criticisms that other people might have with the film, and I at least want to make sure you're aware of going in. Okay, right off the bat, some of the creature special effects are very, very good, and some of them are pretty bland. None of them are bad, but some of them are, less overwhelming than others, shall we say. The various mechanisms that different people use to face the situation, like denial, overreaction, hostility, are not always pleasant to watch. If you've never been in a real life or death situation, this aspect of the movie might seem far-fetched to you. Let me tell you from experience, it's not. But it might not be pleasant for everybody to watch. The film includes the typical Stephen King religious zealot. It's par for the course. I am pretty sure that people like Stephen King have spent their lives debating a caricature of a religious person who exists only in their head rather than an actual person, but you may disagree. The ending of the film is very emotional and very, very tough to watch. You will feel like you've been punched in the gut. Now, I'm not going to give the ending away, but that tells you that it's probably not so happy that you feel punched in the gut, and you would not be wrong. It is not a happy ending. I liked the ending just because of the fact that, first of all, I'm surprised that a studio allowed that ending to be released because it must have tested horribly. But I enjoyed the ending. I thought it was very powerful. So let's get to Steve's scorecard for this film. Right off the bat, kills, I counted 25 estimated, plus many, many, many more. I mean, the entire film was basically a gigantic mass casualty event, and we're just dealing with one little cluster of survivors who do not know what's going on anywhere else. Bare breasts? None. It's not that kind of film. Mercy killings and self-mercy killings, because we do not use the S word. 7. Yes, 7 people either killed for mercy killings or take care of themselves because they don't want to suffer anymore. Infuegoinatings, you have one of those. Yes, one character is set ablaze inside the grocery store. Cash drawings, you have one, and just to recall, cash drawing is when the monster under the bed reaches out, grabs you by the feet, and drags you under. There is kind of a modified version of that in this film. Hot air balloonings, there is one of those. Tentacle gets a hold of somebody and starts waving them up and down, and you can't really see the monster, but you see the person moving up and down, or at least the rope attached to the person. Houdini splittings, which we defined earlier, you get one of those. And incubatorizations, you get one mass hatching that you get to watch right in your face, with many, many more implied. You also get an assortment of bonus features when you watch a film like The Mist. Now, this is a very serious film, and normally bonus features is where I kind of make fun of the film, so this is not really a jokey kind of film, but there's a few things in the list. You get a Punisher sighting. Yes, Thomas Jane played the Punisher in a movie years before the current Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's also known for The Expanse, which if you have not watched it, is very good. You get a Dr. Arnim Zola sighting. Yes, Marvel Comics intrudes upon our movie once again. Dr. Arnim Zola is in this film. As is that chick from the Chronicles of Riddick. There is a sighting of her too, Alexa Davalos. You get multiple Walking Dead cast sightings. You get Laurie Holden, who played Andrea, who people did not like. You get Melissa McBride, who played Carol. You get Jeffrey DeMunn, whose name escapes me, but he was on the first season, and he was the guy in the RV who was kind of Glenn's mentor. And also, the creature design for this film is done by Greg Nicotero, who obviously is intimately involved in The Walking Dead. So it's not coincidental that you've got a lot of overlap between this film and The Walking Dead. You get a giant monster that eats dog chow, as so happens in real life. You get, finally, Granny with a flamethrower, and how can you not love a film with a granny with a flamethrower? So let's get to Steve's final score for this film. We're going to give it 3.5 paws out of 4. You may disagree, but I'm going to say that this was a well-acted, well-executed, and atmospheric creature feature that explores a number of aspects of human nature. I am really disappointed with myself that I did not watch this movie sooner. Now, the shocking ending likely kept this film from becoming more popular than it ultimately did, and just word of mouth about the ending kept me away from this film. Be prepared for a not happy ending when you go into this one. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but be prepared for a not exactly happy ending. But beyond that, it is a good movie, and if you steel yourself for that ahead of time, you should enjoy this movie. It is very, very good. Anyway, that is The Mist, and that is Steve's final score, and that is our featured film review for this week. Well, we're coming to the end of yet another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, but before we go, as is our tradition, we're going to talk about a couple of other things I watched this week. Now, once again, in deference to our poor writer-director, Carl the Camera Monkey, we are trying to lighten up this feature a little bit, so instead of going around the horn and having multiple reviews from several different people, I'm just going to talk about 2 films that I watched this week. One that I recommend, one that I recommend you avoid, and we will start with the movie I recommend, and this week I watched a film called Judas Ghost. Now, we talked about this one way back in Season 1 in other stuff we watched this week, but I thought it was worth revisiting again. I saw this one free with ads on Tubi. It may be available other places as well. This is a 2013 independent supernatural horror film, and it is based upon the Ghost Finders series of novels by Simon R. Green. Now, I have not read any of those, so I cannot speak to the quality of them, good or bad, indifferent, but I did enjoy this film. In this film, a team of professional ghost hunters get more than they expected when investigating an old village hall. And that sounds like every other found footage ghost movie ever made. There's probably 127 million films that fit that description, and yet I really like this film. Let me give you a few reasons why. First of all, it is an interesting story. They did manage to write an interesting story for this one. Second of all, it's not a cookie-cutter found-footage ghost movie. In fact, it's not found footage at all. This is a traditional style film. Now, there is a tiny bit of found footage element to it because one member of the ghost hunter team is documenting things, so a little of it is done with handheld cameras. But for the most part, it is not a found footage film. It is a more traditional film, and so it is much more well done than a lot of the cookie-cutter found footage films. And one of the big differences is in most of the cookie-cutter found footage films that you'll find on Tubi, it's always a bunch of 20-somethings who have an internet show that they're trying to get to break through, or they've got a reality show and this is their last chance to get ratings. Judas Ghost has none of that. The ghost hunters are trained professionals who work for a organization that they don't really explain too well in the movie, but presumably is at the heart of all these novels, called the Carnacki Institute. One other interesting thing about this film, it unfolds in real time. 1 minute on screen is 1 minute in real life and vice versa. So basically you're just watching an hour and 15 minutes of a ghost hunter investigation. Now, it does have some cons. The acting and special effects are mediocre. The actors are probably nobody you've heard of, which again is par for the course for a lot of independent films. The special effects are a mixture, some practical, but there is a heavy use of computer graphic special effects, and they're not terrible, some work better than others. The film is formulaic, let's be honest. Most ghost movies, most horror movies are formulaic in one way or another. Now, the film has few real scares. They didn't really go after doing a lot of jump scares and things like that, so it's not like a film like Hell House LLC where you're constantly jumping at your own shadow. It's more just a good film. And one interesting thing about this one, since it is made in real time, there's no natural spots for commercial breaks. So if you're watching this film on a streaming service free with ads, the commercials are always going to feel like they come at a bad time, just because there's no real natural break between scenes in this film because the whole thing unfolds in real time. One thing I did not write down, but I also want to mention, the entire film takes place in one setting inside this hall. So again, it feels kind of claustrophobic. The whole thing, just 4 people inside this one giant room, it kind of nibbles away at the back of your mind that, yeah, they didn't have a lot of money. The verdict on this one is I like this one. It's worth watching if you like small budget independent horror films and you can appreciate a horror movie that's not a thrill ride. I just enjoyed this one. I mean, it's not the greatest movie ever made, but it is solid and enjoyable, so I recommend Judas Ghost. Now, other film we watched this week that I do not recommend is called Paganini Horror. I found this one as well on Tubi, free with ads. This is a 1989 Italian horror film. In this film, a female rock band record an unpublished score by Paganini and accidentally open a portal to hell in the process, and apparently bring back the Paganini as a living dead or something. Frankly, I could not really understand entirely what was going on. Now, I will say this. This is an interesting idea on paper. The idea of an all-female rock band recording something written by Paganini and opening a portal to hell. Somebody could do a really cool movie with that. You know, somebody else at least. Con, literally everything else. There's nothing redeeming about this film. The acting is terrible, the writing is terrible, the special effects are not even good by 1989 standards. There is just nothing redeeming about this film. If you read any kind of book about Italian horror films, you'll see that even the director hates this movie, and he made it. The verdict on this one is no. No. There is nothing worth watching here. I watched it until the end. You should not. I took the bullet so you do not have to. Skip right over Paganini Horror, find something else. Watch Judas Ghost, do not watch Paganini Horror. I will say this. It is an interesting idea. I like the idea behind Paganini Horror, and I think a competent writer and director could turn this into a fun movie. But that is not what happened in the 1999 version. Do not recommend Paganini Horror. Thumbs down on that. Thumbs up on Judas Ghost. And that is the other stuff I watched this week. Well, that wraps up this episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun putting this episode together, and we hope you enjoyed it. Of course, we always love to hear from you. So, if you've seen The Mist and want to tell us about your favorite part, or your least favorite part, or anything else that suits your fancy, please feel free to sound off in the comments. As always, if you did enjoy the show, please give us a like and a share. The best thing you can do to help us out is to share this video, and it costs you absolutely nothing to do so. If you want to stay up to speed on our latest videos and other goings-on, you can follow us and subscribe on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat is available exclusively through PBDC TV, your nightly heartbeat of horror. If you're interested in horror movies, true crime, creepy history, or unexplained events, we're sure to have a show for you. You can find us at psychobunnydc.com, and we're also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. We also have a 100% Zuckerberg-free Discord site. If you'd like to check that out, just head on over to psychobunnydc.com and click the link for an invitation. We will be back again next week to talk about another horror film, and let me tell you that next week's film is really, really gory. So if that's your kind of thing, you'll definitely want to check it out. In the meantime, everyone have a great week and stay safe. We'll see you again soon. Good night, everybody.